Monica Bodierski here, artist and author of a few things, divination enthusiast, seer, alchemist, artist, lots of things, and for all of this last month, the programmer and, I guess, creator, founder of the WITCHfest North Arts and Culture Festival, which was in its 5th year. 2 of them online. I won't lie, that was a little disappointing when we were used to seeing people in person, but I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think it was really fantastic for our international guests who really would not have the means to participate otherwise, or us, because, you know, plane tickets and hotels and everything else can get quite costly. So, all in all, I think it went really, really well. I want to thank you all for your enthusiasm over the 5 years. Our audience has shifted, but, you know, it seems that the quality of our audience has just gone up every single year, and for that I'm really grateful. And by quality, I just mean people who are really enthused and engaged and show up, offer their assistance. We have some pretty good volunteers. True, it's a very tiny handful, but wow, are they ever dedicated. And I want to thank everyone, including those volunteers and people who purchased passes and tickets. We're coming right up to the Samhain festival, and that's what I'd like to talk to you about. I'm going to pull a couple of cards too at the end of this for a bit of a final harvest reading, but first I wanted to just say a couple things about Samhain. And I think Samhain, some people pronounce it Samhain. I have been known to say it so fast it sounds like Samhain. Some people might even say Samhain. You know what? It's a Celtic word. Say it however you like. I do say Samhain. It is a Celtic festival, as I just mentioned, and has been transplanted in a way put together with Halloween. But those two things are very different. So I just wanted to share a little bit about my understanding and my own pagan practice and witch practice of Samhain. It is the 3rd and final harvest. And the first harvest is one generally of grain, and this is in the Northern Hemisphere, and as I mentioned, Celtic, which is Lammas, and that is when the grains are in. It's kind of a bread harvest, the first harvest, and that's August 1st. The second harvest is, I guess, fruits and vegetables and nuts and all those good things, and that's generally around Mabon or the fall equinox. And then the 3rd and final harvest is sometimes called the blood harvest. I am sorry to say that for some of you who are a bit sensitive about animal welfare. I think some of our ancient ancestry knew, though, how to take care of animals and be humane. We'll just put it that way. And that 3rd and final blood harvest is actually what Samhain is. That is the last harvest until, well, spring. Next harvest in August 1st. There are no real harvests over this time. It's a very cold and barren season. It's a time of rest. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, but our ancestry who come from the northern hemispheres had to be very, very careful about their stores and their stocks to overwinter without perishing. So it's kind of vital, and that is an early root look at how we began with that. As far as ancestral veneration, well, some people will tell you that's fairly recent with paganism and neo-paganism. And others will tell you that there was always spiritual and ancestral veneration at this time, because it truly was believed that this was the new year. This is bringing, it's the end, the final harvest. Also, that means the new year is starting. And I guess because the new year is beginning, there are a lot of beliefs about the veil being particularly thin. And I think people noticed a lot of spiritual activity, and ancestral veneration is very much a part of that. And it isn't the only thing, though. There are also spirits who wander through the night. And sometimes there was a fear or trepidation that people would be taken back to the grave by their dead relatives. And you have to understand, these things have changed quite dramatically, and we don't always have them documented. You know, our pagan ancestry probably celebrated and had rituals very different from the ones that may have come out of even medieval Europe when the plague was rampant and when people were dying very frequently, and memento mori were very popular, meaning items that memorialized life and death, and as a reminder that life is short and there is mortality. So, you know, enjoy yourselves. I think some of the fear, and that's just conjecture on my part, from Europeans and death had certainly come from the transmission of a lot of diseases that originated in Europe. So it wasn't always just about great to see your dead relatives again. I think also, though, there were a lot of ancestral ceremonies to honor those who came before us, and they weren't just on Samhain. They were throughout the year. There were certain days that people were honored. There were certain name days. There were all sorts of festivals held on the day that the person passed. I'm not sure that there was just a let's all celebrate our dead loved ones for Europe. People had very regional differences and ways of looking at this, which also evolved. So I think it would be a little presumptuous on my part to say that absolutely and definitively this has always been a historic, momentous occasion for venerating our ancestors. I don't know about that. I would also like to share a little bit about Celtic roots that some of you may not be aware. You know, my last name is Bodirski. It is spelt with a Y. That's not the Polish spelling. It is the Slavic, Czech, and Russian spelling. And I do have relatives from the Czech Republic. My dad was born there. He was also of a lot of mixed heritages, so we won't list them all. But suffice to say, a lot of my relatives were a mix of Czech and many other people for having been born and raised in that area. And what you may not realize is that the Czech Republic takes very seriously its Celtic roots. Celtic, you say? Yes. For those of you who don't know, Celtic people left Europe and that area a very long time ago to move into the UK. So the Czech Republic, not wishing to just jump in on a good thing, I think they just wish to look at their own early roots and not only focus on Slavic and, yes, some Germanic, but also look deep into tribes like the Boii, who were Celtic. This is where the word Bohemian comes from. Those are Czech people. You know, when we were visiting, we had the good fortune of seeing some redheads in kilts with bagpipes, because that festival was held in Prague, and frequently in Prague. It's kind of like calling brethren home to celebrate. It was very interesting to see. So, as part of my own heritage, if you were wondering, and for those of you who may also come from that area, the Celtic celebration only seems like the right thing to do. So, what were some of those celebrations? Well, carving turnips, I think, came from the UK. It was a little light, maybe to, scare away some of the spookier things. This is how it certainly came into being syncretized or morphing, if you will, into a 20th century and 19th century, I guess, pop culture kind of a Halloween celebration with costuming. It certainly moved quite a distance from a lot of earlier ways of celebrating and holding things like the Dumb Supper, which were silent suppers to honor the dead. So lots of interesting things there. I'd like to say a big shout out and thank you to my own ancestry. When I think of all the trials and tribulations that they have survived for me to be here, the odds are quite against it. And I think all of us take a moment, whether it's Samhain or whether it's on people's birth or death days, we think about how much they've sacrificed to get us here. And for that, I am most definitely thankful. And yeah, I do love this time of year. And I have to admit, I do indulge just a tiny bit in things called pumpkin spice. Don't hate. Okay, so what I did promise was a couple of cards amidst all of this thanking for everybody. And I have shuffled my Shadowland Tarot deck, and I'd like to give you 2 cards that are an ancestral message for this final harvest and going into the truly dark portion of the year where everything seems to slow down and become quite static and still, resting. So, let's take a look at the cards. Aha! This card is very much about balance. The Two of Pentacles, balancing resources, physical resources. It is difficult sometimes when we don't get out as much as we should when it's colder, and I think staying balanced and secure and not trapped is something we should really think about. And the food we put into our bodies over winter so that we stay healthy. And the other card I have pulled is of course it is, even though these are well shuffled, you know I do shuffle. It's the Knight of Pentacles. And the Knight of Pentacles, for those of you who don't know, is the slowest knight of all the knights. And that's a good thing. Slow and steady wins the race. So I think this message is for all of us to lean into our winters and lean into the cold weather and say it's okay if we slow down a little bit. There's a reason for that. Our metabolisms may slow down a little. It is chilly outside. We like to cozy up. And in that way, don't be harsh on yourself, okay? Because we are moving with the seasons. And as I said, balance from the other card is very, very important. But you know what? It's okay that we slow down and reflect. And we are kind of in the deep, dark, cold, the season of the crone, the wisdom, the rest, the passing, and then rebirth in spring. So thank you all so very much for being here. And I always forget to ask you to subscribe and comment. But I really would like to hear how you feel about this time of year, your ancestry, Samhain, or anything else that you celebrate or would like to share. So thank you so very much, and I will definitely talk to you soon. Bye-bye.